Flooring family, welcome to the Huddle. Come to you every Tuesday, 3 o'clock Central to discuss maintaining forward progress in your flooring career. With me today, as always, Mr. Daniel and Jose Gonzalez out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we are new technology today, so sorry we're late a little bit, but how's it going, fellas?
It's going good. My brother's going to come over here because we can't figure out the new technology yet.
Yeah, we're getting there. So to get started, kicking off the new year, we figured what better topic to talk about than taxes.
Take your headphones off.
So today's topic is pros and cons of subcontracting. And, this time of year, tax preparation, that kind of thing. Now, we're not accountants or financial advisors, but so take this as entertainment purposes, or just consider it as a lessons that we have learned or have experienced, and we're sharing our journey. So do not take this as financial advice, but I don't think we'll get in too much trouble by saying pay your taxes and preparation in doing so. So to start off with, though, the part of the topic that leads up to this is the pros and cons of subcontracting. So at my flooring company, we have both hourly and subcontractors. I know that Preferred Flooring does as well. And the purposes of having both for us is quality control, as well as control in schedule, more flexibility with our in-house guys. I also believe in training a lot. So if we can send people to training or make sure that our crews are better trained, it's just frankly an easier thing to do with in-house employee installer. So pros and cons, guys. What's your initial take on becoming a subcontractor?
I would say you do have quite a bit of freedom, right? Like, it's really up to you how much work you want to take on or how little work you want to take on, the type of work you want to take on. You can be pretty fussy if you select to be. I would say that was it. And you can choose who you work with or work for. That's a little bit easier as well.
Yeah, those are great points. One of the big things I think that is appealing is having some flexibility to your schedule, to people. I think one of the other appealing things is, doing the work you love the most. You can kind of choose to do. If you're, a carpet guy, you can choose to do just carpet.
Yes.
And
there's plenty of guys that, some of the guys that we use them strictly because of that. That's all they do. So anytime we have that project, it's like, or a high-end residential piece, this is who we're calling.
Yeah. And you can build a reputation around that. So, I know that's appealing, and that's a great point.
It is. You find people willing to work with you and be part of your team who may have strengths that you don't. And I think part of the hardest part about that is just recognizing that, hey, someone is more efficient than you, someone is better than you. But then also recognizing that there are people out there that are in fact really good at what they do, and if they're more efficient than me, then it doesn't make sense for me to struggle to have our guys go do something that we have someone else available to do. So
that's what we were talking about. We had a meeting this morning, and we were talking about some projects that are coming up that have some ceramic tile on it, and I was like, just one of the last projects, it had 2 bathrooms, and I said if we were to do it, it'd take us 3-4 days. They got it done in 2 half days.
Yeah,
they just know.
Yeah. And you can specialize. So obviously that's a big plus. Another benefit, I think, or another appealing thing of becoming a sub is what you mentioned, Jose, is you can kind of work with the people that you like working with the most.
Mm-hmm.
If you work for a company by the hour, I mean, technically you can quit and go to work for someone else, but working for other people as a sub doesn't impact the resume the way that working for 15 companies by the hour over the course of a year can impact the resume. So, you have more freedom of who you work with and enjoy working with and doing the type of work you enjoy. So those are all great reasons to become a sub or to be a sub. I mean, I know plenty of guys that really specialize in sheet vinyl and flash coving and heat welding, and that's what they enjoy doing, and that's what they're the best at. And I also know some guys that wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, but can do ceramic tile like you wouldn't believe. So you're
Same
not,
thing like
you
with
don't
wood
have to
flooring.
be, you don't have to be as, varied in your skill set necessarily. Not to say you don't need to be a problem solver. Certainly you have to be a problem solver, but you don't have to. You can kind of, like I said, just hang out on the discipline that you enjoy doing the most. Floor God in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about subs, it's hard not to talk about the money that I think is another attractor for a lot of guys. This one is where I think the most pros and cons come into. The earlier items you mentioned, Jose, was, I think, really positive reasons to be a sub. Like they all make a lot of sense and very little full or whiplash from that or
Mm-hmm.
cons to that. When you start talking about the money, you do have to start to then understand it's more of a business acumen that you need to have. There's more things you need to consider. Being this time of year, I talked about taxes already, but I'm going to just dive into that a little bit more here in a bit. Another thing that you need to learn to track that you don't have to typically as a hourly guy or not so much is the expenses on the project. Like, what are you spending money on? How much gas are you spending? What's your, vehicle payment? Do you have a shop? What's that? Like, understanding your cost to do business,
Mm-hmm.
what's overhead and what is job cost, and separating those and understanding what you need to make to cover those overhead and project cost.
And if
Kinda
that confuses you a little bit, there is a program out there called the CIM Program that will actually help you understand a lot of what he just said. Sorry, just a little plug in there for that.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, and that program does go into it pretty well. I've read through the manuals that our guys who got CIM certified brought back, and there's a lot of good info in there about that. And I would say that one thing to understand, your main difference, one of the kind of the frameworks I'd put around overhead versus project costs is if it's something that's going to incur whether or not you're working or not. So your rent or your utilities, employees can fall in that as well. And I say non-project productive employees, maybe a bookkeeper who works for you, or if your wife is your accountant and you're paying her, those types of deals, those are overhead costs. Remember number 4?
This is Luna.
Yeah.
Luna.
She's back here whining, so I figured I better pick her up before she gets a little too
Luna's
loud.
going to teach us some stuff about being cute. So, yeah, I look at it like if it's not directly project oriented, that can get confusing, because then is your truck, you're driving it mainly for work, is that a project cost? Well, the gas to get there can be, but the truck itself, you're going to incur that cost next month anyway, whether you land a job or not. So it's kind of a oversimplification, but maybe a good framework to think about it in. And then you got taxes, and we are upon that time of year where the profit that you've made, I think in a previous episode, we talked about this, but putting a certain percentage, figuring out kind of, even if you just get close, figuring out which bracket you think you're going to be in, and then pulling that money back and saving it. Doing that on a weekly or monthly basis versus trying to come up with a large sum at the end of the year, or making quarterly payments into the tax entities so that, you know, you don't get hit with the huge bill at the end of the year. Those are all pretty good practices that I think that would be supported by the you know, governing entities. But what are your guys' thoughts around that? Because it was one of the things that really caught me off guard early on.
Thing that catches everyone off guard, and you kind of, I think when everyone starts, they don't really realize how much of it actually has to be put away, so they're just guessing, right? And if you really look at the documents that the government provides, they actually give you a table and everything to say, if you're making this much, this is how much you should be paying. But that's all without deductions, right? So that's without your kids and without your house and whatever other deductions that you have. But still, we want to say it's I think we stuck to 30% was.
I think we started around 33, right? Like trying to overdo it, but then 30 ended up being a pretty good sweet spot to plan ahead.
Yeah, I'd say that's, I mean, what do you got to lose at the end of the year? If you don't pay it all the way in, you got money left over in your account. Much different than when you're getting, as an employee, the employer handles that and pulls the money out of your weekly paycheck and then forwards that to the government. And you often would get a refund, or a lot of people would get refunds. Well, my stance is one of the benefits of being a sub in this manner is if you're over allocating to that, at least it's in your hands and not in the government's hands until they decide to give you a refund. Right. So that's kind of a benefit if you do it right as a sub. Put it in a tax-bearing or an interest-bearing account that's liquid, you know, and a lot of people will put it into a CD, earn you right now a pretty good rate, you know, 5-6%. Yeah, and you put that in on a monthly basis and buy 6-month CDs, and depending on the minimums for those, but you can have multiples. And then you're earning interest on your money while you're waiting to pay it in. And then when you pay it in every quarter or every year, however you choose to do it, you got the money, whatever's left over, you just don't liquidate, and you keep it, and it keeps growing for you. So to me, that's a benefit. You're keeping your money. You're not, because essentially when you get a refund, the government's not giving you any money.
They're just giving you your money back
that you overpaid. So I don't know why, but when I was younger, in my early 20s, I was like, yeah, I got, you know, it was almost like a gift, like, and the government puts it that way.
That too.
They treat it like it's a gift to you, because that's how they want you to feel. In truth, they're over there earning interest on your money and every bit that you overpay. And so as an employee, you set your deductions, you set all that up with your employer on how much you want pulled from your check every week. If you're getting a huge refund, you might want to reconsider, you know, whether or not you want that much taken out and readjust. To me, it was, after I figured it all out, it was better to still owe money at the end of the year, even if it was just a little bit, than for me to get a big refund. I got to where I didn't want a big refund, even working by the hour. I figured that out after a couple of years, and I was like, shoot, I'd rather have all my money, as much money as I can possibly have right now. And at the end of the year, if I owe $1,000, I owe $1,000. So plan accordingly. The best advice I can give you is get an accountant.
Yeah.
Get an accountant, talk about your business, talk about how you, I went probably 3 years subbing without an accountant. I had a sister that did taxes and I didn't have an accountant. Get an accountant, make sure you're, communicating with them and you're turning in your documents, your receipts and your expenses and things like this. Note which job it's on, try to have a pseudo P&L at the very least. But working with an accountant on your taxes is the best practice. And I thoroughly encourage it, and don't take anything that I said as gospel.
That's just where you found the best success for you, right? You found your stride with that. Yeah. And I think early on when we had, let's say before we had an actual accountant, try to do everything ourselves through the TurboTax and holy, like the estimating the taxes and all that, TurboTax, that's all it is recommendations, right? I don't think there was nothing exact. There was no, because it can't do projections for you, right? It only can base everything off of the previous year. And we've been wrong on both sides, positive and negative. And let me add to that too, the taxes, the insurance too, like you're a small business, but you do have a couple employees. I think we've been hit with a pretty large insurance bill after the turn of the year, or after the renewal as well, because we didn't plan ahead for that. We didn't plan accordingly for that either, or didn't pay enough. So that's a little off track, but I just wanted to throw that in there too.
It's perfectly on track, actually. I mean, insurance is one of the biggest expenses you have as a business, and we're talking about what the pros and cons are of being a subcontractor. So,
you're
insurance
right.
is right there with taxes. Insurance is particularly, it's important that you understand the rules in your area for insurance, and that you consider, if you're going to hire a guy, pay him cash and do this whole 1099 exempt, he's exempt, I'm exempt, they're exempt, you are flirting with some danger.
I'm going to 100% agree with that.
I would say make sure that talk to an accountant, and they'll help you with insurance as well, and understanding they're not insurance people, but they'll certainly help you understand some of the consequences of not paying it. Also, the deductions that come along with paying it. So it's not, it's a business expense. So, talk to your accountant, but in most cases, that's going to be reducing your taxable income.
And I think what people just need to realize is that insurance is something that you're going to have to provide, and you're never going to get away from it. Like, yeah, it's nice to want to cut costs and everything, but the deeper you go into everything, like, all right, say you do start off as, working for someone, then you're like, I want to get my own jobs, and I want to work for contractors and stuff like that. And then guess what? Now you need this insurance. Guess what? Your limits go up. And now you need to provide you need to provide them on the insurance, right? It's additionally insured, and it just goes on. And then it's an umbrella insurance, and then like I was
talking, of subrogation and everything that goes along with it. Yeah.
It's like you're never going to get away from it. It's something that you just have to embrace, and if you embrace it early on, you're going to be far better off. I mean, everything is just like everything, it's an additional cost.
I don't think we've ever worked for a company that didn't require like the bare minimum.
When we're talking about insurance, to be clear, we're talking about liability insurance.
Correct.
Health insurance and all that is a whole different kind of ball of wax. But if you want health insurance, it's another cost you need to be thinking about when you're bidding your work.
Yes.
The insurance we're referring to is liability insurance, so that if you, throw your kicker through a window on accident, that $20,000 window is now covered by your liability insurance.
And it will be $20,000, guys. Like, it will be.
And you are not personally going to have to cover that. But the insurance that you need is going to depend on the type of work you're doing. Like Jake says, it's expensive. All the insurances add up real quick. There's no doubt about it. At the bare minimum, you're going to have liability insurance if you're working by yourself for a company or even for a homeowner. You definitely want that. I mean, if you just think about any number of things that can go wrong on a job, or you don't put your van in park and rolls back and smashes, well, that's going to be covered. And this is where insurance gets complicated. That's probably covered on your vehicle insurance. Mm-hmm. But if a piece of equipment falls out of it and then rolls down and smashes the car, then your liability insurance is probably the coverage. So insurance is just that. It's to cover your butt on the things that may happen. So you do have to have it. I see some comments about going through wife's insurances. That's more than likely in reference to health insurance costs and not on liability insurance costs. Liability is just that, the liability that you're covering, the risk of being on a job site doing work. That's what that covers. Work comp covers injuries on that job site. So if you don't have health insurance, you darn sure should have work comp on yourself. If you do have health insurance, then it might make sense to exempt yourself from work comp insurance. So a lot of this stuff is really, there's a lot of times overlap, and you're double paying for some things, and that's okay. But, it's also very important to understand what is absolutely required on a job is liability and work comp. If you're an individual installer and you don't have anybody working with you, you don't have to have work comp. You can exempt yourself. I think that's silly if you don't have health insurance, though. If you get a major accident, you cut your finger off on a job site, then and you're covered on your own work comp insurance, then you're covered.
Unless you're one of those people that get hurt and pull a ladder over you and say it was the electrician's fault and then go that route. But don't try to do anything dumb like that.
Yeah. A good point here, make sure that your tools are covered. That's content, like the contents in transit, I think they call it. Equipment in transit.
Equipment in transit
has different terms for it, but that's a good point. Thank you, Jake, for bringing that up. Appreciate the comment. Making sure your tools are covered, or equipment in transit, materials in transit. If you're picking up materials from Florida Core for a homeowner and you get an accident on the way there, or your straps break and you disperse all the materials onto the highway, you need materials in transit coverage either on your auto policy or on your liability policy. Again, getting with a good insurance company. We're working with at Go Carrera, we're working with Federated, hopefully. We're talking to State Farm. We're talking to a bunch of different I name them because they're all the major names, and trying to work out some packages for any Go Carrera installer members to have access to professionals who can guide you in this manner. But definitely you need to make sure you're talking to a pro on it.
Yeah, and it all depends on the insurance agency, right? Because we used to work with a local agency, and they still are great. I still use them for my home insurance. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
me
sure
too.
you do too.
I've been with them since I was 18 years old.
But
So
we just switched over to Federated not too long ago, and they get more in depth when they do their site visits here, go through the warehouse, make sure that everything is is covered, and they get more in depth on the in transit stuff. What's covered in the warehouse? What's covered under this policy? What's covered under this policy? Oh, your machines are in the warehouse, but they're still covered under this this blanket over here, so you don't have to worry about it over here. And it's just getting someone that knows exactly what is going on.
Yeah. So, kind of closing this out, I would say that making sure that you check all the requirements of your area for insurance, all the requirements in your area for taxes, and then plan accordingly. Get an accountant and get a insurance guy. That's I don't even know if it's a con for being a subcontractor. It's just one of the things you need to be cognizant of. The only con I can see in being a subcontractor is probably the biggest con is the companies who have hourly installers are always going to keep those guys busy first, and you will be second. So I think that's probably the biggest con of all or the biggest downfall of all is the fact that when the work's not there, you're probably going to be the first installer to not be working, especially in an area that may have some hourlies. Now, if you're down in an area that it's just subs, it's just you versus another set of subs. And so just make sure your quality's up there, your communication, you're performing at a high level, and you're going to stay busy. Quick question came across. What's Go Carrera? Go Carrera is a network of installers. You can sign up at gocarrera.com. And the purpose of that is, you can find new work on Go Carrera through member companies and bid work there, set your pricing. It's also
a great platform.
Another comment come up, subs versus subs here. Anyway, so Go Carrera also, we're working to provide a lot of other tools for the installation community, from insurance opportunities to get better insurance rates. We have some trainings coming down the pipe on some financial training on how to run a business. You can sign up, as you see here on the screen, at gocarrera.com. And join the brotherhood, the digital brotherhood of installers, where we're working to elevate our trade. We're working to elevate the installer. Me being an installer most of my life, it's been a platform that I've wanted to build and have a huge benefit to the installer. The first purpose is, and really our mantra is, what's good for the installer is good for the industry. So you can find work on there. You can bid work. It's a great platform for, we're going to be adding some communication features where we can communicate back and forth. But if you're doing project over the Go Carrera network with one of the Go Carrera member companies, there's a lot of tools in there that helps you protect yourself, helps you with communication and documents.
Keeps everything simplified in one space, right? That's what a lot of so we talk about the cons and the pros and cons, and I think one of the cons is that a lot of people get into the subcontractor space and not knowing how to organize everything and keep the business as business. We talk about bank accounts, insurance, and then just talk about paperwork in general. How do you keep everything organized? And Go Carrera helps you streamline that by keeping it per project. These pictures are automatically in that project. You want to see them? Go back to that project, look them up.
And Paul's being very modest about this platform, you guys. He's just trying, like, if this was around when I was younger and we were starting out as subs, it probably would have been a little bit easier to find work outside of my area and feel comfortable going and traveling to those other areas. And that's where the subcontractor, a pro about it. If you're on the network, you can find work somewhere. If you don't have work in your area, now you have access to this full network And as long as you fit the criteria, you could have a project available for you if you don't mind traveling.
And I think one of the good things about it is you were here a couple weeks ago, right? And we started talking about, employees on there as well. Like you can be a subcontractor, but still have your own employees and still keep track of them and their projects that way too. So it's almost on both sides, right? You're subcontractor, still have employees, and keeping track of everything all in one platform.
If you're a sub and you got employees, you can add them to your team, share the project documents with them, the installation instructions, and whoever gave you that job, whoever's work order it is that produced it, you can chat with them live. It just helps a lot with your job site communication and covering yourself on change orders. If you get a change order, or you have additional work on a job you need to do, you can submit a change order right through the platform within, I'm talking 2 or 3 clicks, and you've submitted a change order. Mm-hmm. So it just helps with protection of the subcontractor to not have verbal communication, okays, or yeah, go ahead and do that kind of thing, and then not get paid for it. It just documents all that. So it's a good platform. We're working real hard to add more work to it. That's part of our focus here in 2024, to add more opportunities. I talked to a guy that's on the network that really wants more work across the nation because he wants to travel. And we've talked about this too. He wants to do a trip, like yes, travel and cover these work orders. I think it would be freaking fantastic and cool to do that myself. You imagine going to Yellowstone or something and just picking up jobs on the way and taking 3-4 weeks. You're working, doing a little bit of job here, do a little job there. We do have some success stories where guys have been in one area, the job got pushed for a couple of days, they picked up a job in that area, covered their couple of days of downtime, earned a couple grand, went to the job that they were originally on, didn't lose any time, any of that. I want to go too, Christopher. So with that, I hope we've kind of, at least given a high level of like the pros and cons of being a subcontractor. There's not a lot of cons if you run your subcontracting business as a business. Where I have seen the most failures is when guys treat their subcontracting business like a job, and they don't pay any attention to the taxes. They don't pay any attention to the insurance and proper coverage, and they don't spend their time as the business owner in recruiting and training new installers to help their business grow. You are a people business. Your people are made up of installers, of other tradespeople, and you want to be able to hire these qualified, starting people that are coming into our industry, and then train them up, and then you can handle more work and know that that's exactly how you guys have started, your success path, right? That's how I started my success path, was hiring other installers, paying them as either employees or fully paying them as a subcontractor. No 1099, like, oh, you don't need insurance, I'll pay you as a 1099. Nope. If I paid anybody as a 1099, they are going to be, if I paid anybody as a 1099, they were going to be a full sub. They were going to give me insurance. And if they had people working for them, they were going to have to have work comp insurance, all that kind of stuff. So, just run all
the stuff that everybody asks of you. Like if you're submitting that you paid out this much money to so-and-so, then they're going to ask for those documents anyway. Okay. Do you have their information? Where are their documents? It's a trickle. So
I'm going to answer Chris's question real quick. I think to answer your question, all you got to do is sign up for an account and then go on the map to see if there's anything local to you. If not, I'm sure you can reach out to, support@gocarrera.com and ask to be put into contact if anyone is in your area. So that way, at least you have some contacts in the area.
Yeah, if you sign up, Christopher, and then you can explore the map and see if there's any work in your area. That doesn't mean there's not a company. It just simply means that maybe that company has all their work covered at the moment. But you can explore work in that area or any area that you please. I know that there's some work orders that have been published down in the Southeast. There's been more here over the last 48 hours even. So it's growing, and we're going to continue to bring them. What we want to do is bring you the opportunity. The work order is going to have an amount on it. Buy the item, you bid it the way you negotiate it, the way that you feel is best suited for you. And if you have a strong profile, the best thing I can tell you guys to be successful on Go Carrera is have a strong profile. What that means is you want to get trainings that are going to increase your hammer rating and bolster your experience. If you're both experienced and well-educated in flooring, you're going to have a good profile. You're going to have a strong hammer rating. You're going to qualify for a lot of work. If you don't, every opportunity that you get on the network, do a great job, because then you can get kudos, which will earn you even more work. So we're working on, there's a lot of deals. There's also a deals page on there for everybody's information that you can go in and get discounts off of tools and stuff. And we're going to really bolster that this year. So I'm going to close this out. We're trying to keep our new version here this year a little bit shorter and as concise as possible. So thank you for everybody who's commented and everybody who's, chimed in today. We really appreciate it, guys. Any closing thoughts on success for subs? Because I almost think it's more of that than the pros and cons.
Go ahead.
I think what people thank you. We've been saying that for years.
Yeah.
But I think what people need to understand is that they only look at the dollar signs that come in as a subcontractor, and they don't look at the expenses, right? And that's a huge deal of what we talked about today is, yeah, you get more money, but you also have to pay more money out. And I mean, in some cases, there's years where people say, you're always meant to make money, but there's a couple years where no, we did not make any money that year because the expenses outweighed, the revenue. And that's when you look at things as a from a business perspective and say, what can I do in order to cut costs somewhere, make money, but still be productive? And it's a business that you have to run. It's not just, I'm going to go get as much work as possible.
You got to cut costs. You got to get better, be smarter, be more efficient, find people that work harder than you. There's a lot of things to do, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're in a free market economy at that point. And that's what, if you work for a company, that's what they're doing. Finding ways to get expenses down, make more money, get more revenue, do it efficiently, all these things.
It's just like Jorge says, it's an investment, right?
Yes.
And that's what you have to look at it like. Any money that's coming in, like even now, I mean, we're 13, 14 years deep almost, and we're still constantly reinvesting because, people think, oh, you guys are making all this money. It's like, no, we're constantly bringing it in and it's going out because we have to do that.
Got to re-up, man. Got to recharge, man. Every moving part is part of your battery for the business, and you got to look at it like that. Got to keep it recharged and work in order. I would say for my closing is grind. Just grind. Like in the back of your head, if you're competitive, man, just know that somebody out there is willing to work harder than you. You gonna let them win? Just grind.
Yeah, you got to work hard for sure. That's a great point. And speaking of investments, I know that wasn't necessarily the topic, but the third part to this is, if you can put 10% of your money back and invest it, I don't care how simple you get, talk to a financial advisor. But if you just over the last 30 years invested in the S&P 500, an index, very easy to do on your Cash App, it's like you're up and to the right significantly today versus 30 years ago. So, talk to a financial advisor and reinvest your money as well. Invest it back into your company, invest it back into yourself, invest it back into your employees, and you guys will be better companies for it. We'll all be stronger as an industry together. And I hope we play a small part in part in helping you guys do that here on the Huddle. So with that, I'm going to sign us out. Happy New Year, guys. I hope everybody's got a great year planned, and let's knock it out of the park this year.
Sounds good. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for joining. If you caught us on any of the socials, please give us a like and subscribe. I need to get better at shilling our channel. So
subscribe right now.
Comment. Tell us something. Appreciate all the comments during here. Thank you to everybody in the audience, and we'll see you next week.